how can we advance our core strength and stability, and how can we go from that beginner level up to the advanced level. That's what we're going to be talking about in this tutorial, and we're going to be focusing around energy leaks, inefficiency, and stress on joints and tissues. So number one, what is an energy leak? Well, essentially, it's the lost force from a suboptimal position to a joint, or a joint moving through movement that shouldn't be moving. So what that might look like, I've got a 24 kilo weight here. So let's just consider this to be a really heavy weight. Now, if I was to go and lift this from the floor, what I would expect to happen is I go through my hip hinge, I get my position of my spine, I grab on, and I lift up. So I'm translating the force being produced at my glutes, at my quads, some from my hamstrings, and what I'm able to do is stand tall, and the muscles of my torso aren't bending to lose any force. So when we're talking about suboptimal positions, if I was to come into this and I wanted, or I wouldn't want to lose force, but I did lose force, what would happen is I would come here and I would go into this sort of position. So what I've done from there to there is lost some force, and then I would go about lifting the weight. But what I'm not doing is I'm not translating all the force produced, because what's happening is it's leaking out of the bend in the spine. And that's where the word or the name energy leak comes from, because that force that's produced at the glutes, the quads and the hamstrings is being lost as I come from this position and go up into that position. So what we've got to do with regards to our core strength and stability is we've got to make our core strong enough and stable enough to lift that heavy weight. So that then means going through a process of exercise, of tuning that, of stabilizing the spine, tuning the muscles to fire at the right time, and then strengthening them so they're able to hold that position that you want them to hold. When we're talking about poor efficiency, we're talking about the energy that's lost from that energy leak. So what we need to be able to do is keep all that energy in by using the proper optimal position. So what I mean by that is if we come into this position again and we do our lift. Now let's just say to lift this weight, and I've got to lift it twice, but each time I lift it, I use up 50% of my energy. So essentially what I'm saying is I've got two opportunities to lift this, 50% and 50%. Now, if I go through and I go like this and I hold my position, that's 50%, and then I go back down, there's my other 50%. So what I've done is I've efficiently used that energy. Now, if I then go down into this position, and as soon as my spine breaks, or that position breaks, I'm going to leak 10% energy out. So what's going to happen is it's going to take me 50% to lift it, and then I'm going to leak 10%. So what I've got here is I go, right, it's going to take me 50% to lift it, and then I'm up. So what I've done is I've leaked 10% extra energy because of that poor efficiency. So what then is happening is I've only got 40% left, so I'm now essentially not going to be able to lift that weight. So what we are essentially saying is that that position, that suboptimal position of the spine, is a poorly efficient movement. Now, with regards to that, this is also happening in a variety of different places. What I could also do, we could keep a good spinal position, but what could also happen is as we go down, our knees collapse in as we lift. That would be another energy leak, but out of the hip this time. So we're maintaining it through the spine, but we're leaking it out of the hips. So what we need to be able to do is make sure that we're using that optimal position. So we need to be able to get ourselves, first of all, into that position and then maintain it. How we can maintain it is by, again, developing how the hip works. So again, this sort of core stability, core and hip stability all the way through to be able to keep you in that position. Stress is similar to what I've been talking about before. So I've talked about poor efficiency, which is the movement. But now when we look at stress, it does a similar thing. Now, there is essentially three things to cover. Number one is the position of the joint determines the stress on the tissues around it. So if we put it into this is number 2, if we put it into an optimal position, it optimizes the stress on it and it spreads it around. So it's minimal stress for what would be the same amount of work. If we put it into a suboptimal position, it will put unnecessary stress on certain areas. So again, if I come back to this lift, what that basically means is when we're lifting this off the floor, we've got multiple joints. We've got ankle, we've got knee, we've got hip, we've got spine. To some respect, we've got the shoulders and we've got the neck. So I've got to try and optimize all of that. So if I go here and I'm up, so I'm optimizing knee, hip, spine, shoulder, and head. So what that's doing, if we've got 100% of stress, it's spreading that evenly. So it's putting, let's just say, 2% and all around the knee, or 5% all around the ankle. 5% all around, so 5, 5, 5 and 5. 5, 5, 5 and 5. 5, 5, 5 and, or 5 and 5, 5 and 5, so on and so forth. Basically, what I'm trying to say is if we add it all up, it will spread it all around 5% at each joint, at the front, the back, and either side. That's what I'm trying to get across. But what happens when we go like this, and then we would go up, and we would collapse in with one leg, or we would go again into this position and we would round the spine. So what would happen there is we would have, say, 5, 5, 5 and 5 all round here, 5, 5, 5 and 5 all round here, but if we round the spine, it might be 5 and 5 on the hip, but we come up to 10 and 15 on the spine. So that position adds stress to that area. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take that 100% stress and spread it all around. What happens when we use suboptimal positions is it gets concentrated in certain areas, and it will get concentrated around where the leak is. So what we have to do is make sure we're plugging those holes. And certainly how we would do that through the hip and the spine is go through some sort of core strength and stability enhancement program. And that's, in some respects, what this whole 12-week program from the beginners up to the advanced is all about. And again, you can find that if you just click the link in the below. So, fuck that up. Let's go again. The second part to this is stress. Now, there's 3 parts with regards to stress, and the first part is stress on the joint is determined by the position that it's in, which then leads into number 2, which is the optimal position will spread stress, let's just say evenly, around the joint to all of the tissues. In a suboptimal position, which is number 3, it will concentrate it in certain areas. So for example, if I use the lift as the example again, and I come into this position, and I go like that, and I round at the back of the spine, or I round at my back as I'm lifting. So what that will essentially do, let's just say, for example, we've got 25% stress at the front, 25% at the right, 25% at the left, 25% at the back. When I go down and lift and maintain that position, that stress will stay 25% all the way around. When I go and lift it and break and round my spine like I did the first time, what it might do is go, let's just say, 10% here, 20% here, 20% here, and then 50% at the back. Because that's where the break has happened, and that's where the energy leak is happening. That's where all the stress is going to concentrate itself. That can happen at the knee as well. So that could be from this position, and I go, oh, like that, my knees collapse in. So again, what will be happening? 25% of stress around each knee. So the front, the side, the back, and the inside. But as soon as I break, the majority of that stress goes onto the inside of the knee and puts stress on the ligaments on the inside of the knee and the cartilages on the inside of the knee. So we have to be able to maintain that optimal position to be able to minimize the stress on joints and to keep the efficiency up. If you want to take your core strength and stability from a beginner's level up to an advanced level, then please do click the link below. what you'll do is you'll go through to my Core Strength Ability program. If you're a beginner, it starts out with the 12-week program, which you can work through. That takes you from beginner up to that intermediate level, and when you get there, you then get open access to all the programs. So you can go to the intermediate and the advanced programs, where you can then take it. As you hit the end of that 12-week program, you can then open out and go from that intermediate all the way into the advanced as well. So if you want to do that, build your core strength from beginner to advanced, go through the 12-week program, and then you're open. So please do click the link below.